There are tons of things in Throne of Liberty that the game never fully explains, but just kind of expects you to know or to learn by trial and error. And some of these tips are crazy helpful, like how to gain more experience from every kill, how to improve your damage based on in-game weather mechanics, how to get tons of powerful consumables and trading materials for free. So I decided to make a list of my favorites and share all of them with you in this video. Like tip number 1 on this list, one of my favorites, and that's how to level up faster, especially during the early game by getting bonus experience. This is a really interesting mechanic that I haven't seen in an MMO before, but once I discovered it, I got addicted to using it every single chance I got. Now basically you have this thing in Throne of Liberty with killing enemies called power hit experience. And the way you unlock power hit experience is by dealing a big killing blow to defeat an enemy in combat. Now I don't know the exact cutoff here, but it seems that the bigger the damage number in terms of percentage, the more bonus XP you'll get. So if you kill them with an attack that does 10% of their health with one hit, you might get about 10% bonus experience. But if you hit them with a mega burst attack that does 20% or more of their health in a single shot, then you'll get about 20% bonus experience or more. Again, I'm not totally sure on the numbers here, but the bonus experience does add up quickly, especially early on in the game. By the way, the best weapon I've found for this is the Greatsword and its Death Blow ability. This does about 400% damage by default, but once you hit level 15, you can also specialize it to do an extra 100% damage when charged for 1 second. Plus, you can reduce the cooldown by 15% to make a truly overpowered one-shot skill. Our next tip also has to do with farming enemies for experience. Now, often when you're in public dungeons or other popular areas, you'll notice enemies with gray health bars. Now, this is Throne of Liberty's way of dealing with kill stealing, which is a big deal in MMOs, and every game seems to handle this a little bit differently. Some MMOs, will give you the experience and the loot to the player that did the most damage to that target, or sometimes to the person who got the killing blow, but Throne of Liberty is different. Now, the best I can tell is that once a player damages an enemy first, they essentially claim that enemy for themselves, and they're going to get all the loot and experience from that same enemy once they die, no matter who else hits the target. The way that this is shown in-game is by graying out the name and the health bar of that enemy. So once you see this, it basically is pointless to damage that enemy further or chase it down, because you won't get any experience or loot at all. Of course, if you want to help out, you can definitely do that. And this is also an even better reason to group up in situations like public dungeons, so you actually get a better chance at gaining experience and loot. Tip number 3 has to do with consumables, and there are tons of different items and consumables in Throne of Liberty that make a surprising difference with your combat performance. One of these you probably already noticed early on is the World Tree Leaves. These consumables allow your companion to heal you every 6 seconds or so. It's a small heal, but it does add up. And it's also helpful in between fights to sort of top off your health bar. So it's a great idea to keep those World Tree Leaves in stock. But there's an even more powerful consumable I've found that can increase your overall damage by at least 10% or more, and it's called Stellarite. Now this is more expensive and it tends to drain faster than the World Tree Leaves, but if you are playing solo or you want a little extra push of damage to optimize your DPS in group content or in PvP, this item is a very easy way to do that. You can get this from the same Sundries merchant that you buy the World Tree Leaves from. It does cost gold, but honestly there isn't a great use for gold in this game early on, so you might as well spend it here. This is going to help you level faster, it's going to help you do better in group content. Just make sure to actually equip it once you've purchased it for that easy damage increase. And another quick tips on buffs in general is that you can craft a variety of food buffs in this game for both offensive and defensive benefits, so you want to make sure you keep a food buff active for more challenging or difficult situations like group dungeons and PvP. But if you ever forget what your effects or passive bonuses are doing for your actual character, well, you can see those benefits, those stats at any time. You can do this by going to your quick menu and then selecting effect details. And here you're going to see the full list of all of your active buffs, including any environmental effects. Now, speaking of the environment, I mentioned this in the intro, you actually do need to pay attention to the weather in Throne of Liberty and even the time of day. More on this later. Now, one thing to pay attention to though is if it's raining or not, because there is a unique status effect that happens during the rain in this game where players and even monsters can get the wet status effect, and this is going to interact with some specific skills. For example, in the staff skill line, the ability called Chain Lightning can spread to nearby enemies that also have that wet status effect. But there is also a skill here called Inner Peace, which doubles your mana regeneration when the player is wet. Now, obviously, the rain in the environment is your big clue for when this wet status effect is active, but those abilities that are affected by wet are also going to animate on your skill bar as well. So you can easily, visually check when those skills have bonus weather effects as well. Now, there's actually another pretty cool interaction with wind effects in this game, but this is going to specifically affect longbow and crossbow users. In this case, when you have those weapons equipped, you'll notice a bright arrow on the ground, which is telling you the direction that the wind is blowing. And if you attack with either the longbow or the crossbow in this direction, you'll do some bonus damage. On the other hand, if you try to attack in the opposite direction or against the wind, your damage will slightly reduce. And again, this is not a huge bonus, and obviously it doesn't work in a lot of PvE content, which is inside of dungeons, but it's just a fun little interaction to be aware of. But another even bigger thing to pay attention to in Throne and Liberty is the time of day. Now, this is especially true if you're out farming in one of the game's world or public dungeons, because as soon as nighttime hits, the doors actually lock and it becomes an open PvP zone. Now, the first time that this happened to me, I didn't even realize what was happening. I just got killed super fast by a group of players. So if you like PvP, definitely check this out. You can prepare yourself ahead of time, and it can be a fun challenge. But if you're just there to, get some levels, maybe some extra materials, you want to leave as soon as nightfall happens before you get zerged down. But you might be wondering, what is the point really of these open world dungeons or public dungeons, some people might call them? Well, other than the fact that they turn into PvP VE content at nighttime, you can actually get a lot of good materials here, and these materials can help you level up your skills, which is what you want to be doing all the time in Throne and Liberty to actually improve your build. That's because it's much easier to improve your skill levels early on than improve your equipment or your gear, and these skill levels can actually upgrade your skill's effectiveness massively. This is going to result in more damage, more healing, and so on. Now, most players know that you can get skill upgrade materials from things like contracts or level up rewards and so on. There's multiple ways to upgrade skills, but I don't think this is nearly enough, especially if you want to try out multiple different weapons and different builds. This is where these open world or public dungeons come into play. You see, these locations are great for dropping paper and ore, and you can take those materials then to a skill researcher in town to craft your own skill upgrade books to help you max out those skill levels as soon as possible. But there's also ways to upgrade your gear more efficiently in Throne and Liberty, and this is by recycling old gear in a process that's called power transfer. For example, in this case, I have a blue quality staff and very few blue upgrade growth stones at this point. So instead of trying to level it up with stones or get more stones, I can tab over to the transfer menu instead, put in my staff that I want to grow or level up, and then select any other weapon to transfer its power to. Now, if I transfer my level green staff here, you can see the resulting growth for the blue quality staff is 3 levels, which is a pretty good start. And this is much easier than farming those blue quality growth stones, like I said, or the materials to make them. I note too that you don't have to transfer the same type of weapon. I can transfer power from this level 6 sword and shield and get the exact same growth. Now just keep in mind that you will lose the original gear piece when you transfer its power to a new weapon. And speaking of weapon power, you may have noticed the system of weapon mastery in Throne and Liberty, which very slowly levels up your equipped weapon and gives you some decent passive bonuses as you play the game. Like I said, this levels up very slowly by using your weapon and gaining experience in combat, but to supercharge this much faster, there's another bonus material you can collect called Training Dew. These can increase your weapon mastery by 1,000 to sometimes 10,000 per piece, and you can actually get these items very quickly by doing the game's side content, things like the daily contracts. Plus, the dew also expires after a few days, so you want to make sure you use this right away to level up those weapons and unlock those mastery passive skills. But if you want to easily get new and more powerful weapons and armor in the next tier, I recommend checking out your Lithograph Book. Now, this is another really helpful mechanic in Throne and Liberty that lets you trade in older gear for new gear. For example, here I can trade in 4 green quality greatswords to get the next tier up of a blue quality greatsword. Now, this isn't something that you can normally craft yourself either. You have to, farm random drops from dungeon bosses or pay for the crafting blueprint. So this method is much easier and more time efficient. All I need to do here is craft the remaining greatswords that I don't have collected yet. Then I'm going to return back to my lithograph book, submit all 4 of those items, and then click on claim reward, and I'll be able to equip my shiny new piece of gear. Now, speaking of switching up your weapons, make sure to use your quick slot sets in the skill menu for creating different builds and skill loadouts. Before realizing this feature existed, I spent a ton of time swapping my skills back and forth whenever I wanted to change from like a solo questing build into my PvE tank build. But the quick slot options here make this whole process just way easier. So you're going to select quick slot 1, 2, or 3, then just select all your skills, your passives, your defensive bonus here. Plus you can switch over to the skill specialization area, and this gives you a completely new template as well, where all of your skill specialization points are reset. So you can customize those further, and then everything is just saved in place exactly how you set it up, and you can switch back and forth on the fly. This is super helpful for switching up builds quickly on the go because, like I said, there's lots of skills and customization options in this game. And a quick bonus tip here before we get to the last one, and that is that you can change the default camera in Throne and Liberty, which can be quite helpful, especially in open world or PvP, where you need to see what's around you better, because I don't think the default camera in this game is all that great. It's a little bit too zoomed in and you don't get to see, what's around you, which is very important. To fix this, this is really easy. You just open up your quick wheel menu, then choose camera settings, or you can go through the main menu as well and then simply adjust the level of zoom here. Now this was for, consoles and controller gameplay. It should be even easier with keyboard and mouse where you can just scroll using your scroll wheel. But yeah, I definitely recommend you adjust this to better suit your playstyle as soon as possible. But that leads us to my favorite tip on this list, which is how to get consumable potions and crafting materials instantly for free in Throne and Liberty. To get started, all you'll need to do is join up with a guild. Now, this should be fairly easy to do. There's plenty of guilds out there who are, always recruiting new members, and you may just get a random guild invite out of nowhere, which is what happened to me. But of course, you can take your time and, look for the right guild. You can even start your own guild with friends. It is a big component of the game, especially later on. But for now, once you do get a guild invite, you can actually donate things to improve your guild. And when you do that, you'll obtain some guild coins. And these are consumable currencies, which you can use to get those materials. But what's even better is that there will always be guild challenges, which you can see here on the left. And you don't even need to participate in most of these to gain more guild coins from these. You just need to be online before the reward expires. So make sure to check this out, pick up those coins here, then head to the guild merchant where you can use those coins every day to get some useful potions. Mana potions like these are always good, and these rare recovery crystals are actually the best healing potion you can get early on, so I recommend you get those. Plus, once your guild actually levels up more, you'll be able to get a really good deal on blue quality and even purple quality crafting materials. So this is awesome. But that's all the tips I have for today. Hopefully you found this helpful. And if you did, you'll definitely want to check out my other video on Throne and Liberty, where I go over all the best builds and playstyles. So check that out next, and I will see you there.